Oh my God, that's your. Oh my Lord.
Full of them, mate.
Okay,
It's full of them.
this is the pre-show apocalypse now. Oh my Lord.
Oh my.
There's about 30 or 40 in there.
Jesus, that's the armies. So for those who just come in, this is the pre-show. We will officially start at 8. This is the pre-show. I've got a song to play from Adelaide, but remember that violin thing? I put that back together. I think it's actually pertinent now because I said, let's see how. I'll just see how it works.
Music. Silence. Everybody listen to the power of music. Silence.
I want to talk to you. What he said is what I want to find just
Terribly sad.
Do you know what's really interesting? I've always hated the anthem. It's always just sounded like, they got an anthem, sounds like an anthem. But when you hear him doing the violin to it, and I said to him, can you take away the lyrics and just make it sound like it's got a broken heart? That's what he did. And that's how it feels. And that's what I think we are now.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
The best national anthem, by the way, is La Marseillaise.
Oh, really?
Oh, you should listen to it.
Yeah, okay. I will.
It's all about revolution and death and war.
Well, I was just telling some people out the front there that I had an accountant come up to me, and this was in Port Lincoln, an old guy, and he's done the maths of how much Dubai gets for its gas and how much we've lost since basically Howard gave it away for free, and equates to around $1 trillion, which is the debt we're leaving our children. And I'm thinking, why can't we approach Howard and have him, come on, we want to understand what, why can't we? Why he's an Australian, he's this, he made the decision. How did we benefit from the decision? But you're not allowed to touch them. They're like no, you can't touch us, It's yeah. I think it's not demanding their heads, it's just demanding hold to account. Come up there and tell us how we were supposed to benefit as a nation from that, That was a joke. You guys have got to go with the, I'm setting it up here, throwing it in your lap.
You need the alphabet boom.
Oh, it gives us this now. G'day, Daryl. It gives us this now. So this is just the pre-show. Don't get excited. I'm just waiting for people to come in. So I'll tell you what we got now. I've got this. This is my favorite reaction to the bullshit that we're singing. Oh, it didn't work.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah. So it goes from there. But yeah, and Bruce, congratulations on your show, man. People love it. You and Mark. I was going to get Mark on, but I forgot. It's been such a hectic day. I was going to get him on too. So sorry, Mark. It was just the day got away. But it's you guys are doing great, and lots of people have come up and talked to me about it. They really
2 hours every week, and it's just there's something new to talk about every week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. I saw your military breakdown of what's going on in the Gulf, and you know, with your personal background and on the literally on the boots, on the ground experience, I think you nailed it. You know.
Literally 4 of the bases that I worked at in the Middle East have been missile struck.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been hearing reports that the bases, the American bases, are uninhabitable.
Correct. This
Really?
is a turning point in world history. This is the end of America as a power in the Gulf. It's the end of the petrodollar, and it's the end of the cheap energy era. This is twice as bad economically as COVID already, and this will change world history. This is a pivotal moment in world history you are living through.
Yeah, which we seem to be doing is like a regular thing. You know what I mean? We just keep upping the ante. You know what I mean? We've gone from vaccinating the entire world, taking down the Twin Towers. You know, it's like a Netflix series. What could we do next?
Yeah.
Do you know, it's similar to COVID in the way that the Liquid Fuel Emergency Act is very similar to what someone else posted, Robin Minotti posted, what was happening in the UK. And it's the same. It's the same. And it's, again, from the Department of Climate Change, you know, and net zero in the UK. And in Australia, it's the Department of Climate Change. And I'm just wondering, are we going to solar panel and wind turbine our way out of starvation, you know?
And here's the problem with that. We're already sucking as much so-called renewables as we can, and we have to firm it up with hydrocarbons. So the fact that hydrocarbons are now more expensive doesn't help us at all, because we can't get more wind and solar. We're already pretty much maxed out. So all that happens is
I interviewed John Stapleton. I interviewed a guy about the turbines again. G'day, Earl. And he books on your way, Earl. And in the Atherton Tablelands, they're taking off all the tops of the mountains to plant these huge wind turbines that do fuck all. They're just
the tabletops,
you know. And we're doing it. We're doing it.
Yeah. So you know, I think Senator.
To everybody here.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
Oh, I'm just saying.
No,
I
was just going to...
Senator Antic, I think, was one of the first to call out, wow, what's going on with the fuel crisis, and that it's and these is COVID style. Yeah, now we've got Chris Minns using the COVID style, and it's all about, you know, the emphasis is all about reducing activity, you know, reducing travel, reducing the spending, and you know, you can track a country's economy, and it's a direct relationship with energy use. So you cut the energy use, you're cutting the economy, and if they're saying people need to stay at home to save on non-essential fuel use and stop traveling, and it's very similar to COVID. And what you were saying before, Bruce, the economic stuff is so similar. In 2019, before COVID, they had the repo crisis in the US. There was a overnight wobble in the funding of the financial system, and not long after that, COVID came, and then a few months ago, you know, we're now in the same sort of point. We're running out of funds in the repo, and what are they doing? Again, they're finding another excuse to shut down the economy. The COVID was stay home because there's a deadly virus. Now it's stay home. We don't have the fuel for you to be gallivanting, you know, in your truck.
Yeah,
but it's interesting. Yes.
I'm just going to say this is Earl Jackson from Texas. So he's got $3.99 for 3.7 litre. So
That's a
we're
US gallon.
$3.20. Earl, over here we're $3.24. I saw today, which is the most expensive I've ever seen diesel, and that's in Mundaring, which is in the hills of Perth, and
Yep.
all
So-
the other petrol stations from there to here didn't have diesel.
And
So
and by the
that
way,
was-
if that's $4 for a US gallon, that's pretty close to dollar US a litre, which is $1.50 our money. So we're on double that already.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
reference the point that Paul was making. There is a straight line R.98 correlation between the amount of energy that your country uses and its productivity. And that's not only true for total energy, that's true for oil-derived energy as well. Because around the world, oil is still the backbone of the economy. Despite 20 years of green propaganda, it's still worldwide only a few percent of total energy consumption. And it's, intermittent, unreliable's got to be backed up. So I heard a figure the other day that the first 6 months of COVID knocked 9% off the world GDP. Wow. The first 6 days of the current Gulf War knocked 20% off it. So the economic hit here is already twice as bad. But the big difference is that during COVID, it was voluntary, and in most cases, we just shut stuff off. This time around, we've blown stuff up. So not only is it twice as big, but we can't switch it back on again. We are well and truly screwed here. We've just, you look at in Australia, my diesel price has gone from $1.70 a litre up to about $3.20. So let's call it doubled. So what that means is that our cost of energy in this country is just doubled, which means our productivity has just halved. So whatever we can afford to pay for energy, we're only going to get half as much, which means we're not just going to get a recession here, a few percent. We are looking at a 50% reduction in Australia's GDP, as is the entire Western world here. And on a long-term basis, because we can't undo this, we can't unscramble this egg that Trump, thank you very much, has well and truly scrambled here, because we've blown shit up. And it's going to get worse from here because the Iranians have been getting bombed for 40 years. And this time around, they're going to see this through to the end. They are going to win. Well, they're winning already. In Clausewitzian terms, what you have to do in conflict is you've got to look for the Schwerpunkt, or the center of gravity of your enemy. And when you find it, that's what you attack. Now, the Iranians know that the center of gravity here is whether the Strait of Hormuz is open or closed. That is what the war turns on. The Americans are not fighting that war. The Americans are fighting a drop as many bombs as you can war, without understanding that that has never worked. Didn't work in Korea, Vietnam, didn't even work in Japan. They often tell us, yeah, but the Japanese were bombed into surrender. No, they weren't. There were massive ground campaigns, even up into 1945. There were millions of Japanese soldiers still fighting, mainly in China, but some in the Pacific. They didn't just drop A-bombs on Japan and have the Japs surrender. They'd already been pretty much defeated on the sea and on the land before that. You cannot defeat another country by bombing it if it doesn't want to yield.
Can I ask Bruce too, from what I've been reading in the interviews I've been doing, I'm just reading what everyone else is reading, that Iran is ready to burn its entire country to the ground to win.
Absolutely. So, of course it is.
So they can't, you can bomb them as much as you want, but they're not going to give up that. They
don't regard it as burning their country to the ground. Someone else is doing that. They regard it as outlasting the enemy. This is what the Viet Cong did. Very famous quote from the peace talks after the end of the Vietnam War between two colonels, one US, one Vietnamese. And the American colonel said to his counterpart, "You buggers never defeated us on the battlefield, not even once." And the Vietnamese colonel sort of screwed up his face and said, "True, but irrelevant." And Ho Chi Minh said, you will kill 10 of us for every one of you. And in the end, it is you that will grow tired of it. This is the war that Iran is fighting. Wow. Iran is much bigger, much stronger, much more difficult terrain than Vietnam was. And
is
not only dropping...
surrounded by mountains?
Yeah, mountainous country is great defensive country. Think of Afghanistan.
Like Afghanistan. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, plenty of room to hide and plenty of room to launch irregular attacks from.
Yeah.
The US cannot defeat Iran militarily. And even if they could, what matters is whether the strait is open or not. The strait is closed. And while it remains closed, Iran is winning.
But how strong is the American Marines now since Trump has removed the trans soldiers?
They're not as strong as they were during the first Gulf War in 1991. They've got probably 100,000 or 200,000 troops less. And remember, the invasion of Iraq in 1991 to clear out Kuwait took a 6-month build-up and 500,000 troops.
Wow.
And they had a base right next door to the fighting. They could sail their ships up to Kuwait and unload in a safe area.
Yeah.
And they still took 6 months and 500,000 troops to do it. They don't have any of this in Iran. And by the way, they went back, 10 years hence to try and conquer Iraq, and they still couldn't do it. They occupied the country and they still lost.
Yeah. Is there a tiny little island that they're sending? I heard they're sending 5,000 Marines to take.
You're talking Hormuz. That's
a
case of
Karg
Island. Sorry. Yep, I misspoke there. Karg Island.
Yeah.
Karg Island is utterly useless
Island,
militarily. A, they can't do it. B, they gain nothing by doing it. And it's been telegraphed so obviously that it must be what the Russians called Maskirovka, which is false information.
Yeah,
so they're trying to get the Iranian eyes on Karg Island, and what they're really going to do is they're going to put some troops ashore way down the other end, down the very eastern coast, which will gain them nothing, will not open the strait. That's what matters.
Do you think the problem when you have such a great big army like the Americans is hubris is the problem? You just cannot stop underestimating your opponent?
Yeah, well, the Americans have always been hubristic in war, and they haven't earned it. They haven't earned it since the Second World War because really they've had their butts handed to them every single time since then. Korean War was a draw. The Vietnamese War, they lost. The first Gulf War, they won, but they didn't get rid of Saddam. And when they went back to do it, they lost. The Afghan War, they lost. The Iranian War, they're losing at the moment. How many countries in the Gulf do the Americans have to attack before they work out that conventional military operations will not conquer those countries?
And this is not like past wars. I mean, the use of missiles and drones, it's an asymmetric warfare. You can take down a carrier group with take down a carrier, which is incredible investment, with one hypersonic missile, and they have hypersonic missiles. The Americans don't. And the other day, they sent. No, they didn't hit it, but I'll put up the picture. They sent a missile out down here. I don't know if you can see, past India, past the Maldives. Down there near Madagascar, sort of in between there, is Diego Garcia, and apparently an intermediate range ballistic missile. One failed in flight. The other they shot down from an Romanian facility that sent an intercepting missile. So, I mean, that shows that from Iran, with their intermediate range missiles, they can hit into Europe. Yep. They can hit Moscow. They can hit great bits of China. With these, so it's a very different war. It's like they've come to the war with the wrong set of tools. They're charging cavalry against against Panzer tanks. You know, it's like it's a new thing, and Ukraine showed that very, very clearly that the Russians loitering munitions and drones could take out these $1 billion, Patriot batteries, and so I think that's the thing. They're functioning on an old paradigm, and I think part of this fall of the Western society is a military one. I mean, it's a financial one, it's a military one, but I would say that we're in but I think it's going to be a trigger for something that they've planned all along, which is a rejigging of supply chains. We've been talking about this.
In every war, ultimately what wins it is economics and logistics. And back in the day, before we had fiat currency, nations stopped fighting when they ran out of gold and couldn't borrow anymore because they couldn't pay the soldiers. Now, that all changed with fiat currency because you can now just print money and strip the value out of your citizens and your country. So you can effectively keep fighting when broke. But at the end of the day, normally in warfare, the country that has the best logistics wins. It's what I call the FedEx effect. You know, the Americans were very good in the Second World War because they could deliver absolutely positively overnight a bomb wherever you wanted it. Their logistics were great. Now, this time around, our logistics are being hurt by Iran because they've just cut our supply lines. And you said, Iran can attack Europe, it can attack Diego Garcia. And I did see the comment there that said it was a false flag.
Yeah, I saw from earlier, yeah.
I agree with that. I think it probably was. And by the way, Diego Garcia is the 5th base that I've worked at that has been struck with a missile recently. So I might be a bit of a black cat here. But the point here is that Iran is already attacking every Western nation because our fuel costs have just doubled.
Yeah, that's right.
We're already at war with them.
Can I ask you, Bruce, two questions. So first off, what are your thoughts? And Paul was talking about this too, so feel free, Paul, of famine. Because Australians are not used to empty shelves. We were bitten COVID. Correct. But they're talking about fertilizer going, but it's just the ability to deliver food for farmers need food. I saw the mining, like an average coal mine uses like 2,800 litres of diesel a day or some incredible amount. So what are your thoughts on famine? Talking with Bruce, but Paul, please join in.
Look, throughout history, famines have always had a large political overlay. Most famines don't just happen because you have bad weather. Most of them happen because you've got a government that messes things up as well. You know, think the Holodomor, think the famines in China, think the famines in the Soviet Union. It's usually when you've got a government that's messing up the food supply as well. And the world now has 8 billion people on it, whereas a century ago, I think it was 2 to 3 billion. And the big change there is that we now support that extra 6 billion with hydrocarbon energy. So that's not only used for machinery to industrially farm what they call food, but it's also the fertilizers that go with it. And so we don't farm in soil anymore. We raise crops in dirt. Dirt is just a medium. And after we take that broadacre canola or wheat crop off, we have to put the nutrients back in the soil for the next year. There's no regenerative farming anymore. And so every year you've not only got to plough and seed, but you've got to put vast amounts of fertilizer back in as well. And funnily enough, a third of the world's fertilizer comes from the Persian Gulf because it's a hydrocarbon product, LNG mainly. And I was at a farm. I went to Adelaide just over a week ago with the thought that, I'll go visit the rallies. This is probably the last time. I'm getting a pre-COVID feeling here. I think the body's dead. It just hasn't cooled down yet. And I think most people around us haven't noticed. And I'm quite anxious that I think the dials are all just spinning back to zero. Nobody's noticed yet. So I went to Adelaide thinking this might be the last time for a while that I can actually do this because I won't be able to afford it. Now, go back 5 years, it was because the borders were shut. By the way, Dan, I perforated your border multiple times, so ha. But, I'm getting the pre-COVID feeling. And on the way to Adelaide, I dropped in at a friend's place in Horsham, and he works on a broadacre farm. And this is a week ago. And he said, it's seeding time. We need 1,000 litres a day for our tractors, and we need fertiliser, and we can't get either. Wow. And that's a short window.
Yeah.
That I don't know what the window is, but within a month or two, that means you can't put a crop in.
Yeah.
So the prospect of famine, even in bread baskets like the Ukraine and Australia, it's certainly on the table. And look at what Albo's done in the last, his term and the governments before that. They've stuffed the country full of millions of extra people. And these aren't food producers. These are all Indians and Chinese that are stuffed into Melbourne and Sydney.
Yeah.
We're sowing the seeds, if we could, of our own famine here, even in a place like Australia, where we have ample area and a strong tradition of farming. That will take a big hit. And I look around, man, since my forcible retirement, I've thought I'm going to learn some man skills that I should have had all my life. And so in the last 2 or 3 years, I've learned things like welding. I've learned meat processing. So I raise my own sheep and I butcher them and eat them. I've shot deer and that as well. And I look around me, I look at all the kangaroos that are hopping around Victoria, and that's on my list of things that might be a food source in future. I regard what's coming as very serious.
Yeah. Yeah, very serious. I do too. What are your thoughts, Paul?
No, I agree. Speaking of natural gas, Australia is the number 2 or number 3. We toggle with Qatar, with being the 2nd or 3rd biggest natural gas producer in the world. The thing is, Qatar, they made the urea. They made the fertilizer stock out of it. We have the gas, but we don't have any means to refine and separate, because it was considered economically unviable for us to survive. We've got a system which is just-in-time delivery, which is all about outsourcing and making as cheap as possible. But of course, the price of that is fragility. So, and what we're seeing now is the fragility in spades. So because of saving a buck, because we didn't have the view like we did in our early days of our country, that look, we're in the arse end of the world, at the end of all the supply chains, we have to be self-sufficient. So as a country, we, even like 25, 30 years ago, we were able to refine and produce and even export fossil fuels to the world. But now we take it, it's like it's corruption, it's bad thinking, but the potential for a famine, I think, is real, I'm afraid to say. And it won't happen. It won't happen overnight unless, of course, the trucks stop moving. That could happen overnight. But as Bruce is saying, not just Australia, but globally, I think we're setting up for much more expensive food, and perhaps, especially in poorer parts of the world, many people are not going to be able to afford the food or get the food. So it's very serious. It's very serious. I agree with Bruce.
Now, the other question. Oh, sorry, Paul.
Well, I was going to say Senator Antic, like I said 5 days ago, he mentioned, I thought I'd just play. It's only 2 minutes.
Sure.
Right.
The question has to be raised, is this coincidence or is it a convergence of issues?
Coincidence.
Geopolitical shocks expose pre-existing weaknesses in self-sufficiency, and that's not necessarily a conspiracy. Everything's a conspiracy they don't like around here, this lot. Yet the timing amid WEF-style global coordination calls fuels speculation that shortages could actually end up justifying more intervention, things like rationing, things like subsidies, all for sustainable alternatives or dietary shifts. And if shortages end up widening into winter 2026, I'm going to make a little prediction here, because I like my predictions, that we're going to start seeing debates over sovereignty versus global alignment. Why have I got this gut feeling that I've seen this all before? I feel like I've read this rerun once or twice. Starting to sound a little familiar to me. And would it be such a huge surprise if in the next coming months we started to see, I don't know, work from home mandates, travel restrictions, purchase limits? We're almost expecting we're going to see fuel rations. And would it be such a surprise if all of a sudden, I don't know, this was monitored by QR codes and government mandates and apps, you know, in order to? We remember many of us were talking about the day in which people would finally understand what's going on out there when they went to the supermarket and you can only buy one steak because you'd already bought one earlier in the week. And here we are, 2026. Who knows? Could this be the Great Reset? Now, it's all a bit cynical, though, isn't it? It's all a bit cynical, probably just a conspiracy theory. And yet we hear that the Yarra ammonia plant is off-site for 2 months, and there's a refinery down in Texas at the moment. It's all a bit confusing. Yeah, the old joke used to be, what's the difference between a conspiracy theory? These people love their conspiracy theories when they finally catch up. But the old joke used to be, what's the difference between a conspiracy theory and reality? Six months. So I think it's about 2
3
now,
months.
quite frankly. Can't be long before we're going to be all in this together. Remember how we were all in it together until you didn't do what you were told? Then you were all out on your own. Remember that one? But conspiracy theories. Anyway, in the coming months, I think we're going to see a test as to how this plays out as to crisis management, or whether it is crisis management, or whether we're seeing something very different rolling out. Something maybe, I don't know, a little more transformative. How about that?
So he should be our Prime Minister. Yeah. At least he understands what's going on. And it sounds familiar, doesn't it, Bruce?
Yep, and like I said, I'm getting a COVID vibe, and yeah, why wouldn't they just roll out? I mean, they'd obviously have to come up with some sort of apps and a way of reading QR codes, and maybe you could get, something in your palm that you could just flash it, and they would read that. I don't know. It could be something.
You want to eat? Get the implant if you want to eat. Come on, I did have one more question though. This is about Iran, and this was. We're seeing mixed reports coming in of the people rising up. What chance do you think they have of the people rising up, Bruce? 0. Okay.
The history again, as you know, I read history. I read history for 50 plus years while everybody else is watching My Kitchen Rules. I'm reading history books. So all of this has been heard before. And again, when you bomb a country, they don't blame the government. They blame the people who are dropping the bombs.
Yeah.
And they don't go, I know, we'll overthrow our government. That'll stop it happening. No, they go to war with the person who's bombing them. So historically, bombing a population only solidifies them around the existing government, whether they like it or not, because what they're doing is they're rallying around their national flag. They're not rallying around their government when you attack them. So, no, the Iranians will be ever stronger here. Bombing, the Japanese people did not give up after you bombed all their cities. The Germans did not. No population
London
ever
didn't
says.
with the Blitz.
Yeah. None of them say, oh, look, you bombed us, forget it, we're out. They rally around the country, not the government. So it's irrelevant who the government is. Now, what I'm worried about, this is obviously going catastrophically badly for Israel and the US. And the way I see it, this is existential for both of them, believe it or not. This is not existential for Iran because they cannot be beaten in the war that's currently being fought. The ones that can lose are the US and Israel. And I think this is the end of America as a global power. I think it's the end of the US dollar, the petrodollar. And I think it's the end of the US as a power in the Middle East. Now, when that happens, Israel's out on their own. Not only is America broke, and America's broke already. They owe $40 trillion in debt, and they're just blowing it out. And, wait for the inflation. This war's being paid for with printed money. So inflation is baked in here. So America is broke. When the petrodollar falls over, the US dollar stops being the world reserve currency. That will probably devalue the US another 50%. And this could happen this year, which means not only are the people not going to want to send money to Israel anymore, they're not going to have it to send. So this could be the end of Israel as well. So this is existential for both America and Israel. Now, what I say, what worries me here is given that the stakes are so high, given that it's going so badly for the Americans, the last thing Iran wants to do is to attack the American homeland for the reason I've just talked about. You know, if Iran staged a massive terrorist attack on the American homeland, you'd get the rally round the flag effect. Same as we got on 9/11. You know, 9/11, I presented evidence that it was a false flag. Certainly Pearl Harbor was a false flag. These were tools that the American government used to get a reluctant population to step in behind the government and support a war. So the last thing Iran...
Sorry, Bruce. Is that why the aircraft carriers went at Pearl?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They didn't want them destroyed, but, you know, there's ample evidence. The Americans knew that was coming. And in fact, they forced it to coming because guess what they did to the Japanese? They restricted their oil. That's what led into it. In the year before Pearl Harbor, there was increasing inability of the Japanese to obtain oil. So they went, bugger it, we've got to go to war. And so the Americans wanted that.
And that's another island nation like us, but in Japan's case, they don't produce any energy themselves. So if you're an island nation, same with Taiwan. I mean, Taiwan, they just have to, the Chinese now just have to, if Trump does what he's talking about, he blocks the ships going to Cuba. Apparently Cuba hasn't had fuel for 3 months. They've got so little electricity running that it runs 1 hour a day. You know, and finally, the Russians are sending a couple of tankers to Cuba. Now, if the Americans interdict that flow, well, it's not a good look because, you know, it's a humanitarian mission at this stage. But also, the rest of the world will look at it and go, oh, the Chinese will look at it and go, oh, you can do that, can you? Block essential energy from a struggling country like Cuba, well, an island. We'll do that to Taiwan, you know, and they're already super stretched. So, I mean, there's so many mistakes still waiting in the offing if they don't end this soon.
Look, they can end the war soon, but they can't undo the damage.
How much damage?
Maybe just let me finish off the point I was making there, which is that this is an existential crisis, but not for Iran. It is for Israel and America, which means they may roll the dice big here. They may do some really crazy things because they know they're losing. And Trump's not the sort of guy who's going to go, sorry, got it wrong, my fault, I'll fall on my sword. And that's the only way out of this, by the way. The Iranians...
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, the only way out of this is for America to say, really sorry, we shouldn't have done this, we got this wrong, we'll pay you huge amounts of reparations and we'll sack our leader. And the Israelis need to do the same thing. Cannot happen, will not happen. So the Americans are going to double down until they either demonstrably lose or can't afford it, fail, whatever. But the point I'm trying to make here is that things are so bad in America that one of the tools they're going to pull out of their toolbox is the old false flag tool. And I've already talked about previous times when the American government has done that to get a reluctant American population to swing behind the government to go to war. Yeah. Well, the US government's already gone to war, so they should have done it before this, which is what they did with 9/11. But this time around, there's a very real risk that the population at home are going to stop this. It's that bad for the Republicans. The people at home are just going to say no.
Well, people won't fight for Israel. That's what's all across America. People are saying that. Oh, yeah, we only go by what we see. I don't know if Earl's watching, but that's what we're seeing on our socials, is that the soldiers saying they're not going to die fighting for Israel.
I think there have been two major wake-up calls in the last 6 years. The first one was COVID, and I think the second one is this. So first time around that COVID was like, okay, we can't trust medicine, we can't trust vaccines, etc. This time around, it's how the hell is Israel controlling America? So they're the two wake-ups. But keep your eye out for a false flag is what I'm saying, because the Americans have a history of doing it, and they need to do it to get the American population behind this. It is not in Iran's interest to create a terrorist attack in America, because that'll give you the rally around the flag thing. The American population will solidify behind the war, which is not what Iran wants. So if you get another Twin Towers going down in America that's blamed on the Iranians, it's almost certainly the American government that's done it, because they would benefit, not the Iranians.
So you're like sending a missile basically into somewhere in America, taking out somewhere in New York and claiming that it's the
It would have to be something big. And Christopher Martinson has talked about this, how to spot a false flag. So a false flag is not going to be a clever military attack. So if you see a massive drone attack on the B-2 Spirit bomber base in Missouri that wipes out the American Spirit bomber fleet, that's not a false flag. That's a real attack with a real military objective. If instead you see an office building go down and 1,000 school children, mixing my metaphors, killed, but no military damage, and if immediately all the media swings behind it, you know, they find the passports, the Iranian passport in the wreckage, if they immediately swing behind it and everybody knows that Iran did it, that's a sign of a false flag. So watch out for that, because I think it's a real risk here.
Can I ask initially, why do you think Trump did it? I'll tell you what, I read something, and I think it's not true, but I found something on Substack, and he said that there was these huge trade routes opening up between India and Europe, and the architect behind it is Trump's son-in-law, and it's supposed to be make it 40% faster than using the Suez Canal and all these things. And the thing the only thing holding it back is the Straits of Hormuz. But it's the fog of war. So you're going to have information coming from everywhere. You don't know what's true. But in your estimations, Bruce, why do you think Trump did this? Did he just have nothing to do that day and just, or what?
Okay, well, what I see here is that Trump was our great white hope. He really looked like a disruptor. He got COVID wrong, but he got a lot of other things right. And it did appear that he was going to expose and beat the deep state. But he's clearly been captured by it. So the question was he always a plant, or has he been captured later on? And the obvious question is it the Epstein files? Now, I don't believe it was, because as we've now seen with AI is now so good that you can create anything you want. You know, you saw the pictures of Bibi Netanyahu doing backflips holding a cup of coffee, right? Clearly AI. So I think if someone went to Trump and said, we're gonna let the goat videos out from the Epstein files unless you invade Iran, he would have just said, look, just do it. I'll say it's AI and my base will believe me. So I don't think it's that. He's clearly been captured by Israel. I don't know how.
Yeah, look, I think there is a unifying thing here, though. And I know I go on about this, but like you said, it's the fall of empire. And the masthead for this empire is the Federal Reserve note. And we've got a long history here that we can look at. You know, when Saddam was starting to sell oil outside of the US dollar, you know, he gets attacked. Venezuela, Libya, Gaddafi wanted to have a gold-backed dinar. He wanted some of the oil revenue to go back to his people. They were starting to flourish. They couldn't have that. They were selling oil outside of the US dollar. Now, I remember I went on Robin's show about a year ago when the anniversary of the petrodollar accord came up and passed. And I said, this is really, really big. that they haven't renewed the petrodollar accord. So, who else? Cuba, Iran also doesn't, is selling its oil outside the US dollar. And that's why I said the other week, you'll know that they've won the war. What their military objective is to get Iran to sell its oil in US dollars, full stop. It's a last-ditch attempt to keep the US dollar relevant and linked to oil. Because ever since 71, when it came off the gold standard, it risked hyperinflating in the 70s. And we're sort of back there now, unless they can put some sort of but what's different this time is the world has broken into two big blocks. You've got the Western bloc, if you like, which is aligned with the American central banks, and you've got the BRICS nations, which want to conduct trade outside the US dollar, because ever since 2022, when they took Russia, when they seized the Russian foreign reserves, everyone said, okay, we can't trust routing our trade through New York anymore. So that's what it's Michael, you seem to be frozen. Are you still there? He may have gone. But
I thought I could see him move. Yep. Now, Paul, you and I are both interested in cryptocurrencies, and you'd be aware that Bitcoin is a proof of work system.
yes.
Are you aware of what the US dollar's been called?
Proof
It's a
proof of weapons.
correct. So the US dollar is a proof of weapons system. The US dollar is backed up by the US military, and guess what? They're getting their ass kicked, and they have been for 20 years. I saw it happen in Iraq. I saw it happen in Afghanistan. The whole world is seeing it happen in Iran. So another reason why I say this is the end of the petrodollar. This is the end of the US dollar. And that is why the world is going to change markedly after this.
And not just the US dollar. If the US dollar hyperinflates or fails, all fiat currency is going to fail at the same time, which is why I think the Australian central bank is already running central bank digital currency pilots in the wild now. They're preparing for it, and that's why I've been saying, people, Bitcoin, gold, silver. If you want to preserve some of your savings, your super, for the future, you don't do it in these fiat currencies, because they could go catastrophically, wrong very quickly.
Well, they will do. And for people who might say, yeah, but look what's happened to gold, silver, and Bitcoin in the last few months. And after a bit of a spike, particularly in silver, they've all been pretty soft, although Bitcoin's held up pretty well during the last month. And I just make the point to people, this always happens at the start of a financial crisis. So you have people who have to sell stuff to raise cash for whatever reason. They got a margin call, tank of diesel's cost them $150 and they only budgeted 70. People have to get hold of dollars at the start of a financial crisis. So they sell whatever they've got, including their precious metals and their Bitcoin and anything else, their jet skis, their motorbikes, their second house. They sell whatever they've got, not because they want to sell it, because they have to sell it. And precious metals and Bitcoin are dead easy to sell. You can sell them, get your money like that, unlike a house or a car or a jet ski. So at the start of a financial crisis, all of these saleable assets get sold, whether the people think they're valuable or not. And they get poured into dollars initially because people need the dollars to buy stuff. But over time, governments then respond with massive printing, and that must happen here. The dollars crash in value, and the real assets, the things that can't be inflationary printed, like precious money and Bitcoin, then turn around. So the dollar does a dive and real assets go up in value, but not at the start. And we're at the start now.
Well,
So
when the
why-
lockdowns come, Bruce, just like with COVID, the part of the reason they want everyone locked down is so they could print the fuck out of the currency without producing hyperinflation. Same playbook. They run out of fuel, emergency, work from home, economic activity shuts down. Now they can print the crap out of it and give it to their mates. You know, that's it.
Yes.
It's like out of your super and your savings account to the billionaires and their mates. Whoever the Reserve Bank of Australia consider their mates, they're going to
How
print
about
the
these,
crap
mate?
out.
Albanese, the highest paid leader.
Well,
Look
he's
at that,
doing it.
almost double of what. Yeah, you think we're getting our money's worth, Australia? Do you think you're getting your money's worth out of that? You're happy
Compared
with
to Trump at the moment, I think we are, to be honest.
I think Keir Starmer's definitely overpaid. They're all overpaid.
And hey, look, their salary's irrelevant. It's all the other deals and the influence peddling. But let me pick up a point you just briefly mentioned.
Sorry,
there,
just
Paul.
before we go on, Paul, can you retweet? Because you've only got 2 people watching from Twitter. So Twitter's usually we have our main thing comes from Twitter, but this show, for some reasons, no one's watching. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's we're loved. We're so loved at the moment by Twitter.
Well,
Do they know that-
and we've got our new fan and sponsor. He's come on board. Thanks, Albo.
Maybe he'll retweet. He might retweet it. What do you think? Or re-exit.
Do you know what's happened? When I look on my feed, I don't see it come up on the live like it did before.
No, they've changed it. They've changed
so
it. That's why
I'm
everyone
not
remembers it. They hide it now. If
I'm
you're
not
on
sure.
StreamYard, Paul, are you on StreamYard? Can you see StreamYard? Or if you go up to where your Twitter is and hit that arrow going down, and then you got to click on view on Twitter, and it takes you where it is. So if Twitter hides the live now, you've got to repost it during live. That's why everyone's numbers have been affected.
I don't know which arrow you mean.
Oh, okay, I'll do it here. There's where you see your name up there. 1, 2, 3, 4th across. That arrow going down, and at the bottom it says view on Twitter. It's that we already learned how to do it recently. Not that it has a huge effect. So it's an extraordinary time, isn't it, Bruce? And I have to admit, I don't know about you, but now I can see that what's happening. But for a period of time, you're thinking maybe this is just a blip. Maybe this will just blow over, like most people were hoping for. But inside, you had that feeling this is COVID 2.0. It's coming.
It's already gone
and then
too
you wake
far.
up and you see it. You see the things coming, and you think, okay, we're here. Oh my God, they're doing it.
As Christopher Martinson said, this is it. You know,
Yeah.
for all of us people who've been waiting for the financial apocalypse, this is it. It's going to develop in front of you. And let me pick up on a thought that I started. Paul mentioned superannuation there in passing. And one of the concerns about precious metal holders, gold and silver holders, is that the government's going to come and take your gold and silver like they did in the 30s.
Wow.
And I've always reassured them that ain't going to happen because they don't need to. If the government wants to come and raid your savings, it's going to come and take your super. That's dead easy. You can't hide that, you know, in a bucket under the fig tree in the bottom of the garden. So here's what I predict will happen, assuming this does develop into a full-blown financial crisis, depression. Here's what I predict for super. In the midst of it all, the government will put out a feel-good message and they'll say, you know, these are unprecedented times. We know that citizens are very worried. We are going to respond to these massive calls for safety and security. We know that citizens want this. So what we're going to do, and remember, their super will have halved at this point because all the share value will gone down. So what we're going to do is we're going to sweep everybody's super into a single safe government managed, government guaranteed fund. because that's what people want. They want safety and security. Watching their balances go down. We can't have that. We've heard you. So they'll sweep all your superannuation savings into our government fund. And from that, we'll pay you a pension. You won't be able to take your money out, but we'll pay you a pension. So in other words, in 40 years, we'll have gone a complete circle between you get paid a pension to you will fund your own retirement by foregoing 10, 12% of your wages for your entire career. And at the end of it, you've got your own pot, except the government will take that back. And guess what? You'll be back to being paid a pension. That's how it's going to work.
Let's move to that. I don't think we'll talk about anything else tonight. I think this is really interesting. What strategies are open to us, do you think, Bruce, moving forward?
Okay, well, I'm reminded a bit of people who've came up to me in recent years when things were looking a bit bad and said, I remember you used to talk about, financial problems and Bitcoin and the government's, stealing from you. And I'm a bit worried I might have missed the boat on that. What should I do? And my answer to them is, well, you should do what I told you. Get prepared 10 years ago. So unfortunately, there are many people around now who, even if they wake up now, they're a long way behind the curve. Yeah. They're dependent. They owe more than they have. And they're pretty much looking at a future where they just have to go and eat the government bugs because they've failed the first test of adulting. They've failed to make themselves independent, and they've failed to make sure that their loved ones are protected. Now, having said that, I've pulled my sphere in. I don't care about the country anymore. I don't care about the cities anymore. I care about my immediate family and my neighbours. And they're the ones I try and have personal relationships with and be good to them. They're good to me. I look after them. They look after me. I'm not interested in backstopping the rest of the country.
So you're talking about returning to just absolute tribal community.
Community, absolutely community.
That's your group, like a little battalion of people who you trust and will look after you.
It's a little family, whether you're family or not.
We've been talking about this for years. Community, how we would need each other. Guess what? It's not a drill anymore.
No, that's right.
What you were saying about what you were saying about prepping and now people, if you start to prep now or you try to get extra diesel, you're considered a panic bar.
Dirty.
Yeah. So it reminded me of this guy, which I think he nailed it.
Keep saying these things like "don't panic," urging Australians not to panic, and that's fine. Since that I've just been so relaxed. But I just want to know: are you going to let us know, like, when we're allowed to start panicking? Like, is it when no cunt can get any fuel? And then because there's no fuel for the trucks, there's nothing getting delivered to the shops. And because the farmers don't have fuel, there's no crops getting cut or fucking anything. Like, do we panic then? Or will you let us know a couple of days out and we can just all panic together? What the fuck's going on, But I'm relaxed because you said not to panic, so I'm not panicking. But, yeah, I just want to know if you're going to hit us with a day we can panic on.
Yeah, I'm with him. My credo, panic early and avoid the rush. So we're almost at the point, but I think there are still definitely moves we can do to prepare and network. But just to be aware that these relationships and communities we've been talking about for years, it's exactly for this event, and all the talk about Bitcoin and gold and silver and alternative assets outside the system. It was all about this event, and this is not a drill anymore. This is a live fire exercise. So, if you haven't got any preps, by all means, do it. You run the risk of being accused of being a hoarder and a thing, but yeah, I don't think they're going to tell us when to panic. So.
So I started off by saying
it won't help anyway.
I started by saying that, okay, there's several things I do. So one of them, is, to be honest, you should have got your shit together early. And it's not like no one ever told you. I've been telling people for decades, and so have others. So that's the first thing. But you want to actually make sure that your stuff can't be stolen. And the ways you can do that, your financial stuff, it's harder to steal if it's physical and in your control. You know, it's silver buried at the bottom of the garden. It's not money in your super account, money in your bank. That's one thing. Now, your relationships with your community are also something that can't be stolen. So let's say things get really bad, fuel's really difficult, the government's going around rounding up the dirty hoarders. And my neighbours know that as a farmer, I've got 100 litres of diesel stashed, and I slip them 10 or 20 litres. They're going to be on my side. They're not going to dob me into the government as a dirty hoarder. They're going to regard me as a valuable asset because I've already done something for them, and they understand I'm a resource. The government is not. And the final thing is you've got to have practical skills. You've got to have real man skills. You know, I'm 61, and in the last 10 years, I've learned how to shoot. I've learned how to raise livestock and slaughter them and butcher them and eat them. I've learned how to weld. I've learned how to do farm fencing. I've learned how to drive a tractor. I'm a fireman. I've been driving trucks for a long time. But these are all, nobody can steal your skill set. Unless your skill set is, you know, trading options in the financial world. That's not a real skill set. But if you've got real practical skills, if you can fix stuff, if you can chainsaw up stuff for your neighbours, if you can maybe tinker with their car or their lawnmower, you become an asset, and nobody can steal those skills from you. Don't store all your wealth in artificial stuff that just evaporates, starting now.
Yeah, that's good advice, Bruce.
So basically, The Walking Dead should now be seen as an instruction manual.
Well, a source of food.
Yeah.
Contaminated pre-unfilled meat, but yes. Do you know, you're in South Australia. I saw this today. It might be interesting for a comment. It's on topic. Let me pop it up. It's 2 minutes. Nearly free.
Extract resources, whether it's gas, whether it's iron ore, whether it's that big backyard of uranium you have here in South Australia. It is done under the toughest environmental restrictions. So you can have confidence that we're minimising environmental impact whilst maximising what is our common wealth. And we need to be doing more of it. This fuel security issue, we're literally prioritising emissions reduction in this country above our own fuel security. That's what's happening right now under the Labor government, because we have enough resource here, onshore and in the Great Australian Bight, to actually make sure that we have sovereign fuel capacity and security, but we cannot get it out of the ground.
Have you heard about the shale oil in South Australia?
Not specifically. Have you got a fracking ban here too?
Yeah.
Well, good luck getting the shale out.
Yeah. So
we've got one in Victoria.
Do you know how much potentially of shale oil we sit on here? Let me absolutely blow your mind. Venezuela has 303 billion barrels worth of oil, right? Trump just had a bit of involvement in there. The next highest is Saudi Arabia. They have 256 billion barrels of oil. The next is Iran, somewhere between 180 and 200 billion barrels of oil. Do you know how much is in South Australia, estimated shale oil in South Australia? Potentially over 200 billion barrels of oil. You know how much money that is in the ground? AUD? Potentially $60 trillion. You know what our national debt is? 1 trillion.
1 trillion.
And
say it again, Sam.
1 trillion. 1 trillion. And for some reason, because this report came out in 2013, there was a whole bunch of debate over it. I went back and dug it all up, and I've read it all.
Yeah.
I've read it all. Now, to extract shale oil, which Donald Trump is doing over in the United States, you either have to frack or you do horizontal drilling, right? A little bit harder, but Donald Trump is proving that shale oil can be extracted by the, boatload. A lot of it. They're doing a lot of it over there. And shale oil doesn't have to be refined as much as something like heavy crude oil. So it's less, it's like everyone keeps telling me it's more expensive, but it's actually less expensive to refine shale oil into fuel, jet fuel, all this sort of stuff. I mean, South Australia alone could be the Saudi Arabia of the Southern Hemisphere. But it's
got a ring to it.
So what do you think? What do you think of that? Saudi Arabia of the Bruce? Are you living in the Saudi Arabia of the Southern Hemisphere?
Well, Victoria, for one.
And by the way, I'm in Victoria these days, but yeah, let me make a couple of points there. So first off, Australia has abundant hydrocarbon fuel reserves. You don't have to just talk about oil. We have hundreds of years of coal as well. And coal can be converted into oil. The Nazis did this in Germany during the war, and they did it whilst they were being relentlessly bombed. So we could be converting coal into oil, and the break-even price for doing that is when the world oil price is about $100. That's what it is now.
Wow.
So we could be using the coal that we've got as a feedstock. We could be converting it into oil. And remember, oil's not just an energy source. It's a raw material source for all sorts of things. You know, plastics, chemicals, natural gas can be used for fertilizers and so forth. So our wise rulers have locked up what should be energy abundance for us. They've converted us into an unreliable, government controllable electric system. But even if that electric system provided enough power, which it doesn't, it's got to be backed up by hydrocarbon fuels. But even if it did, it doesn't produce feedstocks. You can't use electricity to make fertilizer. It's not raw materials. You can't use electricity to make bitumen.
You can't make fertilizer out of solar panel output or plastics or medicines or any one of 1,000 other things that are essential to modern life.
So
and
we're
in this
position. That's what we should be doing. Drill, baby, drill.
Of course.
You know,
we're in this position because our wise rulers of both ilks of government for the last 20 plus years have chosen to do this to us. And now all of those chickens are coming home to roost. We can't fix this here. We're at the mercy of world events. And we're just going to go up the crapper because of it. And it's all unnecessary. It did not have to be this way.
It's because we've been living a delusion. You know, we're out of touch with reality. We've got, you know, the DEI, the wokeness. Why was go woke, go broke so successful as a meme? Because it worked. It was out of touch with reality, and it brought bankruptcy. Well, you know, we're just so weighed down with bad ideas. And maybe the good thing about what's going on with the Persian Gulf and the current war is it's shaking us awake and going, you know, this is what we need. If you know what you were believing was bullshit, and you're going to go hungry, and you're going to have no economy if you continue to follow. Yet our wise, as Bruce says, our wise leaders are still very much in thrall of net zero and let's build more windmills, and they've not been allocating towards resilience. They've not been allocating towards extracting Australia's absolutely ginormous fossil fuel energy resources. We've also got uranium, but you know, if we do run out of diesel, it'll be hard for us. But you've got to also think through what the second order consequences of that is, because Australia makes more than half of the world's iron. We're 53% of the iron ore. Yeah, all that green stuff. You know, we're a major supplier of lithium. We're like I say, we're number 2 for liquid natural gas. We're a huge player in coal, like Bruce was just saying. You know, China's massive electricity production, which is just dwarfing everyone.
We just got a special guest coming in. And I just want to say, did you see that thing I shared, Paul, from that American intellectual? I can't remember her name. Was she saying Golf Whitlam was going to try and make us make our petrol basically for us, and the English got rid of him. That's why they got him dismissed. I mean, I can't remember him. Anyway, we've got a real hero coming in to join the conversation, and it's none other than Mr. John Larder. G'day, brother. How great to meet you.
How are you, boys?
Hey.
Yeah, man. I love it when the club and the captain get together. Yeah. What a time, John.
Wow.
Man, you look great, by the way, I have to say. You know, you're looking
amazing.
really good.
It's all the studio enhancements you've got in there, Michael. That's what's...
I keep trying to get Bruce to push it. Push the enhance button, Bruce.
Yeah, so I need everything I can get.
So what are your thoughts, John, of what we're looking at? Do you think this is just going to go away, or you think this is COVID point? This is heading towards the Great Reset. This is a calamity for us.
I think it's another roadblock. There's no doubt about it, and it's all the more reason why everyone has to be super vigilant. But I think the real difference this time is that there are a lot more people awake. So it'll be twice as difficult for them to get any traction, and we're already seeing that. You've only got to see something come up now in relation to vaccines or governments pushing something, and the pushback in the comments is just outrageous. So this is nothing different. People are just very sceptical of these mongrels, and I think that's what we've got to be. Look at Moira Deeming today. I mean, you know, they've pre-selected the leader of the Indian community down in Victoria in place of Moira Deeming. Now, you know, that signals. I mean, if they weren't already dead, their last rites have just been read to them now. The Liberal Party, they are a has-been outfit, and yeah.
That's incredible, isn't it? I mean, we're really watching destruction. Can I also say, now I've got Johnny on and 4 podcasters here, a big congratulations to all the podcasters. There's so many coming out now. I see new ones all the time. I love it. All of them are on message. All of them are just wanting, what the hell's happened to our country? How do we make us great again? That's what they're all saying. And they're talking freedom, and they're not scared. The hate speech laws are not curbing their language. So to me, I'm loving it. It's the more the merrier, and it's such a weapon. You just need your phone, guys. Why don't you just start talking? Get your mobile phone, hold it up. You don't have to do a live. Record it a few times. Get CapCut if you want to look really spiffy, and it's almost for free. And post what you think. Post your thoughts on it. You don't have to be truly articulate. I'm seeing tons and tons of people, young people, old people, they're all speaking out. So the government's trying to silence us and the people are speaking up. I think there's great hope there. It's actually making me proud of the Aussies doing it. And like that Two Worlds Collide, he started a couple of years ago, I think. He's huge. And Celine Against the Machine, I mean, she took out E. Karen. Congratulations, you know. And we've got the old standards like Joel and all those, and of course the club. But there's this new. It's almost like getting reinforcements turning up. I don't even think they know we exist, to be honest. But it doesn't matter because they're still terrific. And so I do see. And I saw one guy the other night. Kel shared it. I can't find it at the moment. He was just in his shed, and he says, "I've never done this before." But he goes, "Times are going to get harder. They want us to hate each other." And he said, "I'm just a no one in a shed. But I'm hoping you all err to kindness and that it brings us all together and that we already have a culture." They've tried to F the culture, but underneath all their screwing around, we're still Australians and we still can come together and get through this. I know it's going to be really hard, maybe impossible, but better to go out as Australians, you know, being Aussies than devolving into cannibals or anything like that. and one of our podcasters came out with a great T-shirt, which I hope he published now, and it says, "This time, let's Aussie our way out of it." And I think that's really, really powerful. I should reach him up and say, "This is what we should do." So yeah, it's amazing, John. Look at you, but look at us, the club and the cafe. We've been going now, what, 5 years? It's nuts. You know.
Right.
Johnny, Earl Jackson, well, you just can't make this stuff up when you pop down.
I hear that all the time. Yeah. And look at Bruce here now. Bruce has a Monday show. Everywhere I go, people are raving about the Bruce show. They just love it, you know? And so, yeah. I even love the fact that they ousted Banksy. They finally found him and exposed him. What did he turn out to be? A mature, white, grumpy male. The greatest artist of this century is one of us. So yeah, so I do see hope. What are you seeing any hope, John? Apart from the people waking up everywhere?
Oh, not really.
No, fair enough, man. Fair enough. Let's do it. Fair enough.
I don't see any at the political level, anyway.
No. Screw it. They're gone.
Well, Johnny, you had quite a huge tweet this week with Kyle Sandilands.
Yeah.
Did you see that? That, I mean, that's a sort of hope. You know, yeah. Is that me?
I think that's just a picture, actually. Yeah, I did have it somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, let me pop it on so people can see what we're talking about.
Cool. Okay, I think Carl's going to check you what you do. Can I just get, excuse me, it's my turn. Excuse me, ladies. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. Scaring the hair out of my glasses. Okay, what is it? You don't like the vaccinations?
Can you just pause it there for a second, Paul?
Yeah.
That man is called Zoltan. I interviewed him at Epic. He's been fighting ever since. And what he is the one that told me, which still shocks me, that on the Monday, I think it was the Monday after Epic, ABC radio, that on the dial is 666, I kid you not, put out a call that if anyone in Canberra sees anyone wearing the Australian flag, draping the Australian flag over their car, they are to call the police so that people can be moved on or arrested. So in the national capital, the national carrier declared that the national flag was the yellow star.
They're traitors, aren't they?
Jackie's husband had the heart problem as well.
Great
We
man.
were told one thing, and then we found out by luck too late that affects a lot of people. And I think that being told, being told and then not being told to us, that's a shit show. Are you saying you were misled? Absolutely, I feel I was misled just like everyone else. Thank you very much. No, absolutely, I do feel like that. Can I just? Would I get the?
Would the media like to report on that?
On your Jackie, Dundee. On your Jackie.
Get a shot on something that we were told we have it. I don't know. I feel
the
that.
vaccine's safe.
You know what? The government's misled everyone.
Absolutely.
It wasn't even the media. The media just no. But I don't think the media knew. I didn't know anything. But everyone else knew.
A lot of the media.
One of those. Yeah, but
no, you can't
the fact check everyone has their own agenda. But I'm with you guys. Like, we shouldn't be forced to do anything we don't want to do.
You shouldn't be forcing anyone to do anything they don't want to do.
Certainly shouldn't let people lose their jobs. Shouldn't have nurses leaving their positions, police officers, army people. It was terribly handled. And I'm not against what you guys say. I was just as filled as you guys were. No, we'll know better next time.
Are you aware that there are cases
for admitting that.
I
really appreciate that. I'm the same as you guys. And I'm sorry to hear that you lost friends. I am sorry to hear that. I didn't know
horoscopes.
I took half of Australia after the big Canberra gig. Yep. And I personally came across hundreds of people who lost family to heart problems, dropped suddenly, strokes. And you saying that you were misled is a statement of courage. We were all misled.
So there you go, Johnny. I thought that was quite That's a
Do you know
little
the
bit
story behind
hateful.
it, Paul? Do you know the story behind it? They were at the court for Beverly
Yeah.
Pierce and Rod Cullerton, and they just happened to see all the media here. They just pounced. That was an opportunistic pounce. I don't think Zoltan's ever done anything like it. Jackie was absolutely great, but Zoltan, with all that pressure, I mean, if one of us had gone up and screamed and lost our shit, it would have gone troppo, but he held his ground. He shook his hand. He was respectful. I thought he did a
Yes.
brilliant job. I thought he
Yes.
absolutely nailed it. It's one of the great successes of the movement, I think. Opportunistic.
But what do you think of it, Johnny? That and Bruce, that he's saying, "Oh, we were misled in the media. Oh, we didn't know." I mean, I see hope in that he's admitting that the Australian people were misled, and that he's now championing informed consent and bodily autonomy in his comments. But yeah, what do you guys think, Johnny?
Well, look, I tend to give the benefit of the doubt here. I mean, I think he's been for some time agitating in the background on a lot of this, and certainly people that I have spoken to that have had anything to do with him have raised that he has been talking about this off air. So, you know, I think we just have to. It's a bit like the Carl Stefanovic thing. You know, like people are still very critical of Carl, but I think we have to. I think Michael summed it up beautifully a couple of weeks back. He said, you know, they're the heads of their tribe, and you know they're not in our tribe. But if they're advocating for our tribe, well, then that's a wonderful thing. And don't knock it.
Also, they blinked first. They blinked first, and they have all the money, all the power. The government's behind them, overseas interests, all the corporations. We have webcams and mobile phones, and determination. And I often think what Bruce said to me ages ago: to win this war, you just don't quit. And I'm never going to see Bruce on Channel 9 going, "Yeah, I wish I'd taken the jab," or you, Johnny, or you, Paul. I wish I'd taken the jab. You know, in fact, have you got it? Can you bring me up to date, because I should have trusted the science. What was I thinking? Never going to happen. Yeah, that's right. Never going to happen. But they're doing it everywhere. Carl's done it. Kyle's done it. And a New Zealand journalist, they've done it. And then Current Affair came out and did a show on an AstraZeneca vaccine injury. And if you listen to the show, the way the reporters talk about the jab, it's though it's a disgusting thing in their mouth. Took the jab. You know, we're winning that propaganda war at least. And just like Bruce said from the beginning, you just don't quit.
Well, I think we're interviewing Chris Nemeth this week on Club Grubbery, I think. He was the guy that was vaccine injured. But, you know, the real story on that tweet that went so crazy was that Sky News misreported it. Now, they were supposedly the organisation of all the mainstream media that were on side, but they were reporting that as nutjob anti-vaxxers have basically interrupted Kyle, and they didn't show the entire footage, which was really important.
We did.
Why do you think I just played it?
Yeah. But what do you think, Bruce, from a propaganda point of view?
I'm less charitable than a lot of us because I don't think you needed to have the correct knowledge at the start. You just needed to have the correct principles. And the first principle is that you do not coerce people to put shit into their bodies if they say no. You don't need information about safety, risks, benefits for that.
Yeah, well,
you just need to respect the fact that they own their bodies and they get to choose. You do not get to choose whether it's good for them or whether it's bad for them but good for grandma. So that required no knowledge whatsoever. So Kyle Sandlands and Carl Stefanovic and all of those, if they'd been proper journalists, instead of just reading the scripts that they were given, if they'd said, well, no, hang on, that principle I don't support. And furthermore, free speech I do support. And there were people out there like us speaking against it. And we were suppressed not only by government, we were suppressed by the media as well. And it's a harsh world. And if you know Stefan Arnio's quote, hard times make strong men make good times make weak men make hard times. What that means is you have to be punished for doing wrong. You can't just forgive everybody who did the wrong thing here, because they don't learn and others don't learn.
I'm not forgiving them. I just think they blinked.
That's a really good point, because I think we're here on the brink of Third World War, the Great Reset, the economic collapse, the potential famine, because no one was arrested. We didn't have Nuremberg. And in fact, to Johnny's point, I was feeling a bit flat this week because I saw, Paul,
before we go there, can I just finish about Carl? The other thing that people are forgetting, this is from a producer's point of view. These journos have realized there's more business on our side with the waking up country than sticking with the lies of the government. That's why they're coming across. There's Carl's realizing, hey, I can have a great future. See you, mate. Great future doing that. And he's proving it. And others will start doing the same because they want to join the people. They want to go where the money is. And so they might not see it yet, but that's it. It's basically, they're following the herd. And so this is interesting time. And they would have seen that, like you said, Paul, or Johnny said in the comments. They post anything now about pro-COVID. Oh my God, the comments, there's not one single comment
that's true
in the government's favor. It's all us. So we got this too, just to show here, Johnny. He's come on board now. I'll tell him about Club Grubbery. He might look you up.
Michael, we're not engaged in propaganda. We're engaged in truth telling. We're engaged in truth telling. It's not propaganda what we're doing. We're just speaking the truth as we know it. We're speaking in the interests of the people, the community, and our loved ones. And but what we're winning, I wouldn't say it's a propaganda war. I'd call it the narrative war. We've won the narrative war.
But Paul, can I just say that I think that and what Bruce said, I don't disagree. These people need to go to jail. These ones that are really pushing.
I did.
You did exactly. But
that's right.
I suppose you can see the difference. It's a bit like when you listen to 2GB in the morning and they read the script about McDonald's and the Big Mac or something. I mean, when they're paid actors and they got the script and the producers there, I can understand that they're in that bubble. And you've seen the difference. Carl Stevanovic obviously is very scripted on the Today Show, but when he's on his podcast, it's a completely different person. And so I think that tells you what the regime does to them. And it's highly likely that within their bubble, they probably weren't aware of what was going on outside the bubble. Not that I'm excusing it, but I'm just saying, well, maybe we just need to, cut
might be a bit hard to see the truth if you're trying to see through $100 million contract.
That's true. Yes.
But they've all become anti-vaxxers in the same way that all of us became anti-vaxxers by seeing the harm. It's the mothers and the parents of their kids that were vaccine damaged. That were the original people who kept pushing and pushing and pushing to investigate, and that's why I feel so. I do feel a bit disturbed that the AHPRA committee was taken out by that activist federal court judge, and now Robert Malone has said, I've tried, I'm done.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
That doesn't give me hope, honestly. So we have, but we haven't shut up, and we are winning the narrative war. And the Rasmussen poll recently, over half the population in the US believe that the COVID jabs were associated with large numbers of deaths, mass deaths, So, but we won the narrative because we're speaking the truth. And what we've been saying all along is mapping reality better than the propaganda. It's mapping reality because, we were speaking the truth. And despite the censorship, despite the lawfare, despite throwing Brucey in jail for bullshit, it's the truth that stands.
I would say something else in that, Paul, though, because to be honest, I don't have the truth. I don't know who's behind this. I don't know what's in the jab. But what I've been doing is calling out bullshit. I have a hypersensitive bullshit nose, maybe because I'm a mushroom. It's all I've been fed, so I can pick it up. But to me, we're searching for the truth. Every time I see the club robbery boys in, they're searching for it. Look, this is what we found. What do you make of it? You do too, Paul, but you're deeper in, with those other greater guys. So you do see truths we don't. I mean, sometimes you come up with stuff, my head's going like, trying to understand it. That's why I think it's a good balance. Bruce does from history, so we can see history. They don't say it repeats; they say it rhymes. I've heard is the thing going through, and I think that's what we've done. What's that? It repeats.
They say history never repeats. They're wrong. History always repeats.
I know they're saying now it rhymes, but look, I don't know. I'd err to you. I'd really err to you. But I just feel that that's a victory for us that we haven't given up our search for the truth, and they're kind of joining us now. And I think that's a victory for our side because we had nothing on our side except each other. That's all we really had. I mean, John, you've been through those court cases. Bruce here has been thrown in jail, and the way they've treated this veteran is a crime. Is an Australian crime. I often talk about what they've done to Bruce, and he's lucky, anyway. And Paul, yourself, they treated you like a pariah, and we're at a loss as a country that you're not out there basically in the hospital where we need you, someone with your skills. We're interviewing another nurse who still hasn't got their job back in WA. This is ridiculous. Our people are dying on the ramps because they don't have enough nurses, and we've got the nurses, but they just won't let them on unless they take this poison. And all these things I could see could start coming down, and it's our fault. It's the people's fault. And I think the waking up is the people not just waking up, but picking up the responsibility of their age, not just for themselves, but for their kids, their grandkids, and everything. I think people are starting to realize that we're actually not an insignificant generation full of non-player characters. We might be one of the most important generations of human beings ever, because we're actually facing this sort of dodoistic times, really,
Dodoistic.
Dodoisticality. That's my theory. If you arrive, this is from a play. If you arrive on an island where you immediately become the dominant species, you automatically start the walk down to your decline, because with nothing to challenge you, you get slower, fatter, and dumber. Ring any bells? And you're basically vulnerable, waiting for some fresh race to turn up and annihilate your species. And I think this is where we are. And I've seen it on ABC, like yesterday. Someone on ABC, they actually said that. We've become a slow, fat, dumb race. And I thought, whoa. But we can fix that. We can diet. We can start getting into it. And we can find some purpose to our lives better than just paying off bricked up air. Is actually to fight for something worth fighting for. And if you want to remember what that is, just look at the fucking shrines in every town. History repeats. It's our time. It's our time. Fuck them. They want to take our future, our freedom, and as in cockroaches. Let's go out fighting. Simple as that.
I saw an example in 2022. I did a couple of posts called "What the Failure of the Boosters May Be Telling Us About the Vaccine," and Aaron Siri directed me towards. He posted about this paper, and it's not about COVID. It's about pertussis, and the pertussis vaccine. And this is the World Association, for immunologists and infectious diseases and immunological disease, peer reviewed. These are not anti-vaxxers. This was in 2019, and basically what this paper. Reason I was blown away by this paper, I was reading it, and they was basically making a point that I did in 2021. I was echoing what Sutrit Bhakti said, which is you can't get, by injecting into your muscle, you can't get immunity to a respiratory pathogen. So this paper was about pertussis, and these experts in 2019 sitting down going, why is it that the acellular pertussis vaccine, which isn't the whole pertussis, it's selected antigens, why pertussis has is resurging, despite countries like Australia, which have very high vaccination rates. And they sit down and look at it and go, oh, it doesn't produce mucosal immunity. You can't get mucosal, which is exactly what Sutrit Bhakti said, which is exactly what I wrote about in my Substack in 2021. Only now I've got peer-reviewed consensus review from the Vaxophiles of Vaxophiles. And this was the stuff that was considered, Johnny, misinformation. This is what the government, the Health Commission, pursued me to shut me up because an anonymous complainant didn't like what I was writing on Substack and Twitter. So I'm fired up. Everything, even the diagnostic stuff, overdiagnosis, underdiagnosis, how, with the PCR, all the lessons were there that these COVID shots couldn't work, wouldn't work, just like Sutrit Bhakti said.
Oh,
and
Ted Steele, Robert Clancy.
Ted Steele, yeah. Professor Ted Steele said that very early on when we interviewed him, that and he was an expert in that particular area from memory.
Yep.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
But then we've been talking about this, John, with people waking up. We've been having big discussions with a lot of the Perth Freedom people we've been meeting, and coming to the fact that for a lot of people, they don't like the truth. They see the truth as dangerous, get them cancelled, lose their job. And so it's not that they don't want to hear, that they actively think it's dangerous. But I think this, once the petrol goes, once their kids are starving, once they start losing a house, then they've got no reason to, because they're just trying to hold on to their pile of dirt. But once the pile of dirt becomes a pile of dirt, gloves off, And I think this is where we're at.
I think the next big problem is going to be the supermarket. I mean, that's where we're going to see the prices go through the roof. I think we're already seeing it now from what I'm hearing, that we're going to be seeing things, like vegetables.
9 Brussels sprouts for $12. That's all we saw. Or was it 12 Brussels sprouts for $9? 12 Brussels sprouts, mangy little, nasty looking Brussels sprouts for $9 in a tiny, struggling country town. I was just looking and thinking, and then I went to another town, and there was 4 steaks, like circular steaks, really thin, $60. And I was sitting next to an Aussie guy with his son, and we're both looking at it. And I just said to him, I notice you don't have much roadkill around here. And he just burst out laughing. So the spirit was there. It's just the way he laughed. He didn't know who the hell I was. It was just a customer. So that's what I'm saying. Even its oppression, I'm still hearing the humor. It might actually bring out the larrikin, because once we were larrikins, this is something, Bruce, I'll just tell you that I really had a profound effect on me. I was interviewing these Iranian people before the war. And what she said was, there's people dancing in Iran now. And I said, they're all dancing. She said, we always used to dance. It was our culture to dance. And we bought a house. We'd buy a house with a huge room just for partying and dancing. And the regime outlawed dancing. And I said to her, we used to take the piss. We not only used to take the piss, we built our culture on that. That's who we were, larrikins. We sold it to the world through Paul Hogan. but they've outlawed it with hate speech, and you're offending someone. So they've been oppressing that way. So to see all these new podcasters and all the people in the comments taking the piss, I just think it's our natural character is coming to the forefront. This is what I'm seeing anyway, which is giving me hope, you know.
Well, I've always found too, Michael, that is the best way to confront these bullies.
Yeah.
You know, when I used to take the piss out of Brad Hazard, I heard that he hated it.
Yes, they do.
And so that was the best thing. You just
Albo doesn't like bikinis.
I mean, that guy that does that stuff on Albo, that Magoo or whatever his name is, I mean, that stuff is fantastic, isn't it?
He's great. Yeah. Yeah. And this is it. They can't stop us because there's too many of us. And watch, I'll show you. We've got to show you the larrikin edge here. Lisa, are you watching? Lisa, if you're watching, how many days until we get Cafe Locked Out Facebook page back? She keeps count. It was 3,649 day restriction. But I believe we're actually under 3,000 now. Or maybe she's not here tonight. But we're actually under 3,000. We're like 2,995.
So close.
Oh, here it is. Thanks, Lise. 2,995. And every time she puts it up, we all have a laugh. So instead of breaking us, it just makes us laugh and we use it as jokes. So everything is a two-edged sword, you know? And
it depends how you take it. I know I've got a Cookipedia post. I suspect you have as well, John. I know Hoodie has. I've had a look at mine. I think it's hilarious. I send it to people. I think it's fantastic.
I haven't seen one. Cookipedia. I hope I have one. They call me Timu Jesus. I've seen on there's a Timu Jesus action doll. I've seen that.
That is funny.
It is. I thought that was really funny.
Oh dear, oh dear. I just said to you, Michael, interesting enough, John Ruddock has just put out a post tonight about reversing laws in Parliament, the no jab, no play vaccine laws.
Wow. I'd love to see people cutting down these cameras. Not saying I'm telling you to do it. I'm just saying if it happened, I'd probably have a smile. But, you know, Perth, it's like they have cameras on cameras. They're just cameras everywhere. I'd love to see them go. I'd love to see facial recognition from Bunnings gone. I was in Coles the other day, and there was one till open for humans, and there was just this huge line. We're all standing there. And so I suddenly hollered out, can we have another till open, please, for those of us who don't identify as corporate employees, but actually still identify as customers? And everyone went still, but they opened up a thing, and then we all went through. And my old man does that now. I got that from my father, and he's never been much of a mover and shaker, like challenging the government. But he's 88 and he does it now. He hollers out and they sort it out. And so this is what I'm saying. It's like the little waves. Everyone doing something like this, and we're just smacking away at them and bringing them down, you know? Yeah.
Take all your loose change in there as well.
What's that?
Take all your loose change in there as well.
Oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Yeah. And but yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting going forward now, you know, because one thing too about people, sometimes oppression brings out the best in us. I mean, look at the whole movement. You know, we have infighting and stuff, but we should all respect each other because all of us have stood our ground. We haven't backed down. And like I'm saying, I don't even see one of these grandmothers, you know, that have been in the marches getting on Channel 9 and wishing they'd taken the jab. No one. No. So there's no one backing down from our side. And there's and you know, the amount of people both of us have interviewed, all of us have interviewed, if you said to them, do you regret not taking it? I don't think I've ever had anyone say they regret not taking it. But the other side, I hate to say, they all regret taking it. So
and they're apologetic about it.
Down for that at all. I feel sorry for you. We all lost out. You know, all of us lost, but we're not judging you for it. It's just a fact, you know.
None of them say, yeah, it was great. You know, thank heavens I got it. They say, oh, look, I had to do it for work. Nobody's proud of it anymore.
No,
there's none of the,
no.
I got my Band-Aid with the COVID.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
None of them left. They're probably all dead.
Well, there's been some shocking things happen. I mean, Bruce ending up in jail. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than that. But I mean, look at this poor David Carter in the UK. I mean, Hoodie and I interviewed him the other night. I mean, we've done it twice now, but I mean, I just could not believe that poor bastard story. I mean, you know, to think that they are now stopping him from going to his kids' football matches because he's.
Oh yeah, we had him on. Yeah, Carlin. Yeah,
David.
I mean, how bad are these people?
Yeah, and there's Enoch in Adelaide, in Ireland. I think it's like 560 or 600 days or some in jail because he refuses to acknowledge a student's pronouns. You know, but they'll. I think it'll crumble. I think there's only so much people will take. You know, maybe we have to have hope. It all comes back to that thing that young girl said to me early on, and I've always used it. And all of us have it. We have a moral obligation not to sell hopelessness, no matter how tight its grip. And it might be tight now, but that's our duty. We can't sell hopelessness. You know, everyone needs to know that there is some possibility of a better future, and it has to be fought for. This is what a great privilege to fight for something that worthy.
Up until now, you know, look at the trajectory of the West over the last 50 years. Weakness has been a weapon. Stefan Molyneux called these people languicides. They are people who extract resources from you by accusing you of things. You know, you're a white racist, you're a bigot, you're a homophobe, and that's how they get their resources. Well, I think we're going into hard times here, and I think people are just about to actually discover that no, weakness is not a weapon, it's a vulnerability, and that the real people who are valued are the people who've got real skills, the people who can drive trucks and operate chainsaws and bake cakes and look after children and weld and shoot deer, not the people who take offence on behalf of, you know, their 1/8 black Aboriginal ancestor that no one's ever heard of. And they never got, you know, they didn't get called Marissa when they're, you know, 6'4" and got a full beard.
They got that guy on the run for double murder. He's as white as Johnny looks now, and they go, but he identifies as an Aborigine. And they go, have you seen this Aboriginal man? He looks like Johnny. And I tell you this was really funny. I got a mate down here who had to do a course for a job, and it was $2,000. And then another mate said, just pretend just tell him you're an Aboriginal. Yeah. And he goes, but I'm not. True. He goes, I can't challenge it. So he went and he goes, then it's $200. So he went to the class. There was about 80 people in the class. All of them identified as Aboriginal. They were Indians, Africa. There was not one Aboriginal, not even the teacher, but they're all Aboriginal.
You know, we're constantly accused. We're constantly accused of grifting, but that's a form of grifting. You know,
it actually rhymes with my name. It's annoying.
The question you get asked,
Michael Gray grifter.
The question they ask you is, do you identify as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander? And they did ask me that when they were processing me into the jail, and I said yes. And they said, which? And I said, both. And so the person writing things down went, both. And I said, both. So they ticked 2 boxes. Then they went to the next thing on the form, which was, do you need a visit from the Aboriginal support worker? And you call them out on it. I've got a mate of mine who he claims he's Aboriginal everywhere he goes. And if anybody dares question it, he just says, deadpan, you don't get blacker than me. No one will question you.
That's Johnny. You know,
they certainly won't question me. I've got the jail time to prove it, so they can't question me.
I just want to give you a smidgen of hope from our community. This woman is called Zelda Punchard. She's from Tasmania. She watches, Townsville, sorry. She watches everything we do. I met her once when I got up there, once or twice. She's fantastic. Look what she just wrote. Michael, I was the first grandmother who said, I don't need my grandchildren to take the jab to save their grandmother. It was the biggest scam in the history of my life. And I'm 80 now. And guess what? I never got COVID. This is where I see the hope, in the people, not in the leaders, in the people, you know? And I do see it. I'm seeing it in Perth here. People find we're considering doing a documentary. I'm working with a guy called Max Freedom, Richie, and doing a documentary on a group of Western Australians who went to EPIC. Now, what they don't understand, every other state who went there, you could just go home. But the West Australian people who went to EPIC, they couldn't get back across the border. So the first one to get arrested is a guy, incredible guy called Colin. Maybe you guys have met him. And King Cole, he had a party for us the other night. And he's hilarious. And he's so strong. And before COVID, he's never protested in his life. And yet there he went to EPIC in a blue Datsun with a hippie guy in his car. And when he came back at Norseman, they chased him down like the Blues Brothers. But they're all this group of heroes. And I think we need to tell the story like a documentary, because in the future, people are going to look back and make films out of that, make books out of that. They're not going to make stories about this era based on someone who took 10 boosters and just quietly vanished into the ether. They're going to make stories about the Australians, the grandmothers and the others who did stuff, who stood up, who fought in their own way. They're going to become the stuff of legends, you know? And those legendary stories is what the next generation will build their culture upon. These are the stories we like. We build our culture on stories and art. So, yeah.
I just saw somebody put down there before about food security and food. Now, I think it's going to become a big issue over the next couple of months. Here's a little tip, and anyone can do it. So this is, probably can't see it that well, but that's just like a beaker from Kmart, $6 with a wooden lid. So that's just rye flour. So it's equal parts rye flour or unbleached flour with equal part water, so about 100 and 100, and just mix it up, let it sit for a day. Use unchlorinated water, so and make a sourdough starter. Just YouTube it. You'll see how to make it. 7 days later, and then you can make your own sourdough for, probably 1/5 of the price they'll charge you in the shops if you can get bread. And all it is just flour, the starter, and a bit of salt. That's it.
Wow. Hey, maybe we should do cooking shows.
Maybe
you all look like chefs to me. Come up. That could be a new thing. You could be the new freedom chef, John. Yeah. Look, I might wrap this up and go. Oh, sorry.
That's what Bruce was saying about, skills is one thing that they can't take away. And it's... But just 1 minute before you wrap it up, I've got a report from England about fuel prices.
Fuel prices in the UK have increased dramatically, and a potential shortage is just around the corner. But how are the British public coping? No. We sent our reporters around the country to find out more.
Getting some fuel today, sir? Yes, this petrol station is the cheapest in the country. That's why I've driven 200 miles to get here, so I can get a full tank for £3 less.
What do you think about the fuel prices?
I got a full tank for 40 quid the other day, so I was quite happy with that. It was for my lawnmower, but I'm trying to stay positive.
What do you think of the petrol prices?
It doesn't bother me. It doesn't cost me anything to fill my car up.
Oh, is it electric?
No, it's petrol, but I just drive off without paying. How have you been affected by the petrol prices going up?
I haven't been affected at all. I only ever put £20 in, so it's still costing me the same.
What have you got to say to the British public who are sat at home right now and might be worried about the current fuel prices?
Well, if they took net zero seriously and bought an electric car like I've been telling them to, they wouldn't have a problem, would they?
How have you been affected by fuel prices?
I've stopped selling Coke and pills and I'm just doing red diesel now instead, for bigger profit margins.
What's your views on the fuel shortage?
I'm happy, but I'm just annoyed that it took a war to stop oil and not my friend gluing themselves to a road or throwing soup at a paint.
Good evening, fuel.
So there you go. There's a report from the UK. It may be AI affected.
Guys, I'd like to thank you for coming on, especially you, Johnny. It's an honor to have you on, brother. And but Bruce, I love having you on every time you're on. And congratulations on your show. It's a fantastic show. Congratulations to Mark too, both of you. It's really, really great. And Paul, you're just a legend. I'm going to go out with 2 songs. I'm going to go out. You remember the violin thing? I did it today. I found it today on a hard drive, and I realized when I said to the violinist, oh yeah, there's Margie's mugs. When I said to the violinist, I said, can you do us a song that's Australia sounds like it's got a broken heart? So we're going to go that's a minute 30, and it's still very powerful and moving to listen to because that's where we are. But then we're going out with another guy in Adelaide who I videoed him singing this song live, and this has a revolution to it, a really larrikin. He doesn't want to do an interview, but I'll just play them both and we'll go out with that. So one will make you feel somber, but one will sort of almost get you on your feet and you'll be in a Braveheart, Mel Gibson sort of mood. But gentlemen, here we go again. Thank you for coming on, and let's have a listen to these songs. Take care, guys, and say hi to Hoodie for us.
Okay.
Put you in the back. So here we go. This is the...
Everybody listen to the...
And I just want to tell you some background on this. I met this young guy. There he is. He's Markian. We met him at a march. He just joined the march. He didn't know anyone about the freedom movement. And I was just talking to him. This was early on in the lockdown marches. And I said, he said, I just want to do something, but what can I do? And I said, well, what do you do? And he said, I play the violin. And I said, well, can you do a version of the Australian national anthem that sounds like it's got a broken heart? And an hour later, he got back to me with a mobile phone. He sent me this. And I said to him, listen, I'm doing a speech. And I did a speech called Fear is the Virus, Courage is the Cure speech. And then I got everyone to shut up. And I said, we're not going to sing the national anthem because at the moment it's a lie. That's our protest. So there was all these yelling and screaming about all this, and rightly so. But then this young man played this, and for a moment in time, he brought a lot of Australians together. And that's why I always bang on about the power of art. Have a listen.
Everybody listen to the power of music. Silence!
I want to talk to you. What he said is right. I don't want to find out. We've got to just want
And now this is South Australia. Have a listen.
Oh, I said Adelaide's waking up. Adelaide's waking up. Adelaide's waking up. And the people of Australia are standing up. Yeah, because now it's 2022 and the people of Australia know what to do. The answer's been there all along. What's the answer, Oriana? All we gotta do is not comply with things that don't make sense. All we've gotta do is not comply with things that don't make sense. All we've gotta do is not comply. comply with things that don't make sense. All we've got to do is not comply with things that don't make sense. Imagine if all the grown-ups did that. They would fix it, eh? What's wrong with them? What's wrong with them? Yeah. All we've got to do is not comply with things that don't make sense. All we've got to do is not comply with things that don't make sense. All we've got to do is not comply with things that don't make sense to me, or you, or anyone in your family. Because if we keep complying with things that don't make any sense at all, the government are probably going to whack us in a jail with our backs against the